If you retired with $1 million and you're on track to die with 5 million, I need you to hear this. That gap isn't a trophy. That gap is every trip you didn't take, every experience you postponed, and every moment you traded for a bigger number on the screen you can't take with you. In today's video, I'm going to show you exactly why this keeps happening and what's actually going on underneath the surface and what real alternatives look like. One that doesn't just free you to spend, but gives you the confidence to do it. So we'll start out here. Let's start by validating the concern at the heart of this. If you retire at 65 with $1 million and you die at 88 with $5 million, something went wrong. Not with your investments, not with your financial plan on paper. Something went wrong with your retirement. Now think about what that gap actually represents. It represents vacations not taken, experiences not had, help not given to our children and grandchildren when it would have mattered most. It represents dinners where you ordered a cheaper thing, not because you had to, but because some quiet voice in the back of your head said you probably shouldn't. It represents a version of your retirement you never actually lived. Now, I want to be careful here because I'm not saying wealth accumulation is bad. I'm not saying leaving a legacy is wrong. There are retirees who intentionally want to grow and preserve their wealth for their kids, their grandkids, their church, their community, and that's a values-based decision. That's a plan. That's completely different. What I'm talking about is a retiree who wanted to spend, who planned to spend, who told their advisor, I want to travel in the early years of my retirement while I'm still healthy, who said, I want to help my daughter with her down payment, who had a list and then quietly, year after year, never quite pulled the trigger. The retiree ending up with $5 million, that's not a success story. That's a tragedy wearing a good balance sheet. So the conventional advice isn't wrong to flag this. The problem isn't telling someone just spend more. It's not a plan. It's a suggestion. And suggestions don't work when you're up against something much more powerful than logic. Psychology. Here's where I want to go a little deeper than most financial content does, because I don't think this is a math problem. I think it's a psychological problem. And there's two specific forces at work, and almost no one talks directly about it. Force number one, loss aversion. There's a concept in behavioral finance pioneered by two gentlemen, and it says that we feel roughly twice as much pain as an equivalent loss as we do for a gain, which means it feels about twice as bad when you're having a $10,000 loss as it does for a reward. Now think about that. In retirement, what does that mean? Every time a retiree opens up their account, they see their balances drop. Even if it's completely normal, completely acceptable, and completely within the bands of a healthy portfolio, their brain registers that as a threat, not an inconvenience, a threat. Now, what do we do when we feel threatened? We get cautious, we pull back, we spend a little less this month, we skip the trip, and we tell ourselves, maybe next year. But here's the brutal irony. The market will recover. The balances come back. The trips don't happen. And the moment passed. And now you're a year older. Loss aversion doesn't just affect how retirees invest. It affects how they live. Force number two, the absence of spending permission system. I want you to think about your working years for a second. You had a paycheck every 2 weeks. Money hit your account. And because of that paycheck, you had an implicit permission system. You knew what was coming in. You knew what you could spend. You didn't have to think about it consciously. The structure of your income gave you the permission to live your life. Now you retire and the paycheck stopped. And suddenly every dollar you spend is coming out of a finite pool of money. And it only goes in one direction in your mind. down. There's no signals that says it's okay to spend today. There's no built-in green light. Without that structure, even retirees with more money than they'll ever need start making decisions from a posture of scarcity rather than abundance. I see this all the time. I have clients, educated people, disciplined savers their entire lives who will agonize over a $4,000 vacation when they have $2 million in investable assets. And it's not because they don't know the math. They do. It's because no one ever gave them a system that clearly says, you're okay. You have the permission to spend this. That's the gap. That's the real reason retirees end up with $5 million. It's not greed. It's not bad planning. It's the fear and the absence of the structure to counter it. So here we go. Let me give you an example. Let me tell you about this couple. I'll call them David and Carol. David and Carol came to me about 3 years into retirement. David was 68. Carol was 66. They had just over $1.1 million in investable assets. Social Security was covering their basic expenses, and a bucket list they'd been building literally was on a shared note on Carol's phone for over a decade. Italy, river cruise to Portugal, a family trip to Hawaii with their adult kids and grandchildren, a kitchen remodel they put off for years because we'll do it when we're in retirement. When I sat down with them, I asked them a simple question. How much of your list have you checked off? Carol looked at David. David looked at the floor. 0. In 3 years into retirement, 0 items were checked off the list. I asked why, and David said something I'll never forget. He said, every time we get close to pulling the trigger, something on the market does something weird. Or I'll read something scary in the news and I'll think, let's just wait until things feel more stable. 3 years waiting for stable. So here's the thing. David wasn't irrational. He was responding the exact way the brain was wired to respond. He had no system telling him it was safe, and he had a balance that went up and down. He had news of a news cycle designed to generate anxiety and no framework, no guardrail to distinguish between the market, whether it's up and should I be concerned, or the market's down and everything's still fine. So what do? We built one. And within 18 months, David and Carol had been to Portugal, they'd done the family trip to Hawaii, and the kitchen remodel was finally finished. And their portfolio, still healthy, still on track, because the spending plan, structured and permission-based, not emotional, not reactive, systematic. That's the difference. It's a huge difference. So here's where we get the real answer, because I promised you at the top of the video, I wasn't just going to tell you to spend more. I want to show you a better alternative and what the alternative actually looks like. It comes down to 3 components. Build these 3 things into your retirement plan and stop making spending decisions from fear, and you will start making them from a foundation of clarity. So the first component is get a clear baseline. What does fine look like? The first thing you need to do is define your baseline for your portfolio. Not a vague sense that things seem okay, an actual number, a threshold, something like, as long as my portfolio stays above X, I'm on track. And I have permission to spend according to my plan. This is what we call a guardrail in retirement planning. It's not a rule of thumb. It's a personalized number built around your specific spending needs, your income sources, your time horizon, and your goals. When you have that number, market volatility stops being an existential threat and it becomes what it actually is, noise. But you can look at your balance and compare it to your guardrail and make a rational decision instead of an emotional one. Component number 2, a spending tier system. Match portfolio to the health to the second component, that is a tiered spending plan. Instead of one fixed number for spending, you have a range. So here's how it works on that. So you have your green zone. This is the portfolio when your portfolio is above the target baseline, accelerated discretionary spending, book the trip, do the renovation, give a gift to your kids while you can still see their faces. Then we go to the yellow zone. This is portfolios at target baseline. Maintain your lifestyle. Don't accelerate, but don't panic. Continue as planned. And then the last place is the red zone. The portfolio's below your defined lower guardrail, so you need to temporarily reduce discretionary spending until the portfolio recovers. Notice what this does. It gives you permission to spend more when conditions support it, and a clear, unemotional signal to pull back only when it's actually necessary. It removes the guesswork and it removes the anxiety spiral. And it turns, should I spend this, from an emotional question into a process question. Component number 3 is an annual plan reviews, the permission renewal system. The third component is a regular structured check-ins, not to panic, check your portfolio, but to do a formal renewal of your spending permissions. Think of it like a subscription that renews every year. Once a year, you sit down, ideally with an advisor, and you answer the 3 questions. Where is my portfolio relative to our guardrails? What are this year's goals and planned expenditures? And has anything about my situation changed that requires us to adjust? This is an annual review that becomes your spending green light. It's a moment where you say, yes, we are on track. We planned Portugal. Let's book Portugal. Without this structure, every spending decision lives in a vacuum. With it, every spending decision lives inside of a plan and feels safe in a way that guessing can never do. So let's come back to where we started. Retirees with $1 million ending up with 5. Is that a success or failure? The honest answer is it depends on whether it was an intentional or not. If you built wealth, protected it, grew it, and made every deliberate choice along the way, including the choice to spend less because legacy matters to you more than 5 million, is a triumph. But if you wanted to live more, planned to live more, had the money to live more, and ended up with $5 million because fear quietly stole your permission to spend, that's not financial success. That's a life unlived behind a very healthy balance sheet. The conventional advice says, spend more. You earned it. I'm saying something different. Build a system that tells you when it's safe to spend and then actually spend, because permission without structure is just a wish. And with structure without permission is a cage. You deserve neither. You deserve a plan that does both, that protects you and liberates you, that gives you the security to be bold, that turns your retirement savings from a number you're afraid to touch into a tool that you're confident to use. That's what retirement planning should do. And that's what we do here at Gen Next Wealth. If you're watching this video and you recognize yourself, if you've been waiting for stable before you start living the retirement you planned, I want to talk to you, not sell you something, to sit down with you, to look at your specific numbers and help you understand exactly where your guardrails are so you can stop guessing and start living with intention. There's a link in the description to book a complimentary conversation with our team here at Gen Next Wealth. No pressure, no pitch, just clarity. And if this video connected with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it, because I promise you, there are more David and Carols out there, more than any of us actually realize. I'll see you in the next video.